like to call our search committee to order, please, and thank all of you who are here today and who are participating by telephone conference. Thank you so much for being a part of this search process. It has been a lengthy and complicated search, and I particularly want to thank all our members who I'm going to ask to introduce himself in just a moment, and to our staff, to Mikey and all our Board of Governors staff who are here, who worked so hard to help things run smoothly, and we certainly couldn't do it without you. It speaks volumes about our state, about our system, that we've had applicants from such unique areas. We've had from a university president to a sitting faculty member. We are very proud of our candidates, though it is difficult to build the number of applicants when you're working under the sunshine. I'm not sure today's the appropriate time to discuss the difficulty of conducting a search in the sunshine, but it does put a great deal of pressure on the candidates. It puts a pressure in a way that is hard for them to deal with, especially the candidates from out of state who are sitting in a position at this time that have a job. It's very difficult. Two of our finalists have withdrawn within the last 48 hours. Tom Snyder, who is president of Ivy Tech of Indiana, it was a wonderful candidate. He's a businessman who's had a very successful career and then has moved into higher education. He's a very impressive candidate, and I was very sorry to see him leave. Also, Dr. Steve McNamara, who is a well-respected faculty member at FSU, withdrew from the search yesterday afternoon. He certainly had political skills that would be valuable to any position, including a position of Chancellor. I was sorry to see them both go, and I thank them for participating up to that point. You will hear from our chairman, Sheila McDivitt, and then from our consultant, Bill Funk, in a few minutes, and they will go through the process of how we will work through the day. At the end of this meeting, my goal is that we will recommend a candidate out of this committee, and that candidate will then go to the full Board of Governors for final approval. But I thank you all for participating, for traveling here today. And before we go further, I would like Mikey to call the board, and then I'm going to go around, starting with the chairman, who will identify themselves and say, give your name and a little bit about you. Mikey?
Would you like me to call the roll of the members of the committee first?
Please.
All right. Dr. Chopra.
Present.
Mr. Kreiser.
Present.
Mr. Dasberg has previously advised us that he would not be able to attend. Mr. Edwards.
Present.
President Genshaft. President Genshaft did indicate that she was on the line, but she may speak later. Ms. McDevitt.
Here.
Mr. Meyer.
Present.
Ms. Morgan has also indicated her inability to attend. Ms. Parker?
Present.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Mr. Perez?
Present.
Mr. Strum?
Present.
Mr. Temple?
Present on the phone.
Thank you very much. Mr. Walsh?
Present on the phone.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you.
You want me to find out if there are other members of the board now on the line?
Please.
Mr. Barnes? Ms. Duncan?
Here.
Dr. Marshall? Mr. Martin? Commissioner Smith? He did indicate he was on the line some time ago. Dr. Solano? Mr. Stavros? Mr. Tripp? Dr. Zachariah? I think members of the board, Madam Chair, were intending to join the call this afternoon at 4.
All of those people have very busy lives, and I suspect they will call in and out as they're available.
Could you check for President Genshaft again?
President Genshaft?
I was hoping she'd be on the line.
She did. She was on the line earlier.
And I may have some difficulties calling from
Madam Chairman, I
Paris.
move we move the meeting to Paris to join her.
And I'm going with you. Mikey, is that?
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Chairman McDivitt, would you start? I'd like the committee to introduce themselves, and should we wait? I will wait till the candidate comes in to do that. I think that'll be better. Yes. Sheila McDivitt.
Hey, Carolyn, this is Rick Walsh. Could you speak up just a little bit? It's a little bit tough to hear you out here.
Is this better? Can you hear better? I'll move the microphone.
Thank you.
I'll remind everyone to do that when they talk, please. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Chair Roberts. I just wanted to thank all of those who expressed an interest in this position, all of those who allowed themselves to be, called candidates, and especially want to thank our chair, Carolyn Roberts, our search consultant, Bill Funk, our staff, Emmerette McDonald, who recently retired but provided her experience and expertise all the way through this until July 1st to support this effort, and then to our corporate secretary, Mikey Bestaverkia, and our capable assistant, Michelle Lynn, and everybody else who helped. It's been a very long process, but I think that we are fortunate to have found ourselves where we are today. Again, as the chair has indicated, we have some issues as to the ability to conduct a search under some of our legal ramifications here in Florida, but that's a subject for another day. We have been without a full-time chancellor for well over 6 months, and it has been a difficult situation for us. So the action that we take today is probably one of the most important things that we can do for the future of higher education in Florida. But during that time, we have been very fortunate to have been served very well by our president of residence, John Delaney, who has also remained devoted to his responsibilities as president of the University of North Florida. But the time has come for him to go back to his primary business, and his board and board chair, Bruce Taylor, have been very supportive of this, but I think they'll be very happy to have him come home. And but I want to really thank him for what he has contributed. It has been really above and beyond traditional public service. By way of reminder, I just want everybody on the committee to remember that early in this process, we spent almost 6 weeks preparing a background paper that was provided to all of those interested in the position, that was very honest and forthright about the status of our system and of Florida's finances and of our governance system. And so that has been there, along with a position description which identified many of the attributes that we were looking for in our candidate, and in our final selection of a chancellor. And those documents have been provided again to all the members of the committee. But I just want to take a minute and kind of run through the attributes, that the primary ones that we had identified: leadership skills, management skills, strategic vision, involvement in national education, academic organizations, and development of those relationships, a commitment to quality, financial acumen, an articulate and persuasive person. And of equal importance with all of the above is political acumen and the skills to develop and maintain relationships among and within the political system, both at the state and federal level, to benefit the state university system and each of our universities. This person must be able to work collaboratively with all of the state university system presidents in a way to help all of our members and the system as a whole. So that's just a succinct way of saying what we labored in a couple of pages to lay out in the position description. So with that, I don't want to take up more time. Some of this I will repeat, of course, at the board meeting, because the members that did not serve on this committee need to understand what we looked at. But I'd like to turn now the meeting over to Bill Funk, our consultant.
Madam Chair, just someone once said, if you begin your comments with all due respect, look out, because that means you don't have any. I could not have more respect for Chairman Roberts or Chairman McDevitt, but we've heard this on 2 phone calls, and I would just like to state that I've been through, I don't know, maybe 15 searches in the sunshine. It is the law of our state. They were all successful, and I don't have the concern that some do. I realize it's more difficult, but you've got to operate under the sunshine, and there's no better time for a candidate to get used to it than when he has to go through the application process. So I fully understand what you're saying. I don't happen to agree with you, but I just wanted it to go on the record that everybody doesn't believe that way. So that's my comment. I'm sorry.
All righty. Thank you, Sheila. And I'd like to begin simply by indicating that I'm a person that travels the entire country and works in many, many states in any given year. And I believe the citizens of Florida are unusually well served by people like Carolyn Roberts and Sheila McDivitt, the board, this committee. It's actually been a joy for me to work with this group. It's been a long, long process, as you've heard and as you know, but to go into something like this with comrades in arms like these folks has been a delight for me. So thank you for inviting me to join you in this process. Unlike everybody else, I think on Monday we all felt very good about the 4 candidates that the committee chose as finalists. And I was looking forward to hearing each of them being interviewed. I think one of the great benefits of these search processes is at this stage, when you have an opportunity to interview those final candidates, it's almost like a seminar in higher education administration, because each of those candidates will bring a slightly different perspective, will share with you ideas that will be different from the others, and it's really an educational process. I've often thought that we should actually pay these candidates as a consulting fee for providing those insights. But I will also tell you that it's not uncommon to lose candidates on any search at the end, and particularly when you are in the sunshine. And again, I don't have a view. I accept the law as it is. But it does put incredible pressure on some of these candidates who are sitting in a position currently. There's just this notion, I think it's human nature, but if you're perceived as and recorded as a finalist, you interview, and then you're not selected, it does harm to you, or at least there's a perception that harm has been done to you in your current role. And so it takes great courage, I think, for some of these candidates to step forward. So I'm not surprised that we had one or two folks at this very end game decide not to follow through. But they were certainly good people, and I would just comment again on those individuals. Tom Snyder in Indiana runs the nation's largest community college system and has been innovative and creative, and really was someone that I was looking forward to the committee interviewing because I thought he would bring some very interesting and refreshing perspectives in higher education. He had a background with Delco Remy, where he was the CEO, so he had a corporate sense of how to get things done, and he translated that in Indiana to being a very effective liaison with the legislature and with the governor in Indiana. And I talked to him twice on Wednesday, trying to encourage him to please stay in. He actually was in a situation where he had recently acquired from the legislature in Indiana a significant amount of additional monies for the system. And as he shares it with me, in their state government, the governor has the right to retrieve that amount up until the time it's distributed. And he was afraid that if he were to leave, the governor might retrieve some of that money, and in fact he would harm his current institution if he were to leave. But I believe his interest was genuine, and I think it was very difficult for him to withdraw. I think he had a keen and serious interest up until the very end, when he was getting a lot of pressure in Indiana to stay. Steve McNamara, similarly, I noticed in some of the reporting, it was noted that he was not recommended by me, and I will tell you that I assumed all 4 candidates had been recommended by me. I, in fact, had said some nice things about Steve, and I was very delighted when the search committee opted to forward his name as a finalist as well. He's as qualified a candidate as any of the other 3 individuals, and I was glad that the committee recognized this and saw fit to add him to the list. He has excellent credentials and would be an excellent candidate for any number of higher education positions around the country. He certainly knows Florida, and I think it would have been to our advantage to hear Steve in an interview like this. But let's focus on the 2 individuals that we are going to see today. I think they're both outstanding candidates. Rod Chu has been the Commissioner of Higher Education in one of the larger states in the country, Ohio. That's a system that encompasses one of the nation's largest institutions. It's usually Florida, Texas, and Ohio State vie for being the largest university in the country. Ohio State is in that system, as well as places like the University of Toledo, the University of Cincinnati, Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green, Wright State, Ohio University, and any number of others. When Rod was in that post, he's credited with many, many accomplishments and innovations. He carries the title today as emeritus, an honor bestowed upon him by his former board. When he stepped down from that post, he also served a period of time as the interim president of the Education Commission of the States, which is a highly regarded education policy group, and again provided leadership for that institution during a very important time. So I'm looking forward to what Rod has to say to us today. He really is he has the classical background. If you do a search, you look at other people doing the same job in other states. And here's an individual who's been in a very populous state like Ohio, has dealt with many of the same issues that we're dealing with here in Florida, and I believe he'll be a creditable resource to you today, and will share a number of ideas in the context of the answers he provides to our questions. Frank Brogan, we can introduce and talk about before he comes into the room. Rod is actually first. We're going to ask Mikey in a few seconds to go and retrieve Rod. But I might now just turn to some of the logistics of what we're going to do. We're going to spend an hour and 15 minutes with each candidate. We've provided you with a list of questions to pose to these individuals. I've always felt that it was better to have individuals on the committee ask these questions rather than a moderator. Can I have a volunteer? I think these could be core questions for each candidate, and then you will have other questions that you might want to ask these individuals. But could I have a volunteer for number 1?
Sure, I would love to volunteer.
AJ, God bless you. How about number 2? Let's do this.
That's his sign.
Yeah, let's do this.
That's
AJ, let me
fine.
give you number 2. I'd like to have Carolyn ask number 1. Is that all right?
Of course.
Carolyn, let's do number 1. AJ, number 2. Carolyn, make the assignments. Marshall, number 3.
Okay.
Number 4.
Shane.
Sure. Number 5. Charlie. And number 6. Okay, Manoj. And number 7.
Sheila.
Sheila for number 8, I thought, maybe.
Sheila. Okay.
Sheila, number 8, and
Then I guess I'll take it.
Tico, you need to do one.
Who's doing 6 again?
I am.
Manoj.
I had a few of my own questions.
Yeah, right. No, and I do think we're not limited to these
Absolutely.
questions.
No,
We're not
absolutely.
limited. I think in what it, Bill, maybe
Yeah,
in
but-
fairness, we want to give both candidates an opportunity to answer, so we can hear their thoughts on both of this, and then this shouldn't take long. and then everyone will have other questions to ask. And
I
then we'll-
presume the chair will moderate the follow-up questions.
Yes.
Hey, Nala.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir?
Nala? Hello, Nala?
Can you hear?
Hey, Nala.
Excuse me?
Hello, Nala?
I believe you have the wrong number.
You've just met the third candidate.
This would be an interesting wrong number to get. You would be thinking, excuse me. So, but we do
Well,
want
is everybody still on the phone?
Yep,
to...
I'm still here. Please talk into the mic. Yeah, please talk a little louder if you
Everybody
would.
move their little mic right up. But I do think, in all fairness to this committee, we do have questions. All of us come from we have a different thought process on this. But do you agree, Tico, it's fair to start with the same
Absolutely, I just
question?
didn't want to be trapped into these 8
Yeah,
questions.
no.
No, absolutely not.
It's just
Depending upon how long their answers go, 8 questions could take a while.
They can take questions, and if we have to go a little bit longer, is that
We can do that.
breaking the rules,
No,
Mr.?
would be fine.
Bill will keep us straight. I want to tell you, I can attest to
It's
that.
one of these things, if you have an excellent candidate, this hour and 15 minutes will just zoom by. If any of our candidates, and I certainly don't think any of these two folks, either of these two folks would be in this category, but if it's not a good candidate, that hour and 15 minutes can be an eternity.
Bill, when you walk out to greet the candidate, could you say that we have these questions that we're going to ask, but
There'll be
in a
follow-ups.
nice way, there'll be follow-up questions that time is
Yeah.
important?
Be concise and anecdotal, but we have other questions indeed.
We'll learn their style.
Indeed. And it's true, some candidates will come in and they'll provide an answer, anecdotal support for it. Others will come in and give you yes and no answers. Then you have to come back with follow-up questions and the like. But this is, as someone said, Charlie, I think you said, this is an excellent test for these folks. A lot of people say, gee, this is torture to a candidate to come in and interview in public in front of a group. But then you stop and say, well, what is the job about? And what will this person be doing once in the position? And this is a cakewalk compared to some of the situations that this individual will find him or herself. Any other thoughts before we go get the candidates?
Just one point. This is a very, I think, I'm very impressed with this committee, and I don't want people to feel that they're limited and can't ask a follow-up question, because
Absolutely.
Well, some of these questions will inspire
Right.
follow-up questions and will lead you right into some of your other
and we want it to
questions.
be a free-flowing and everyone to be engaged, all of the
Right.
members.
Yeah, and I know this group will be, you've been very kind to me, and I know you'll be kind to these candidates.
Oh, absolutely.
But certainly, we don't want to cross-examine them or make them at all uncomfortable.
No, we want to be respectful.
Indeed. All righty, shall we get, Mike, why don't we both go, and we'll get these candidates?
And I think we want to move our names so that you can see who we are, not that we don't think he should have us memorized, but since he's never met anybody, I'm assuming.
Are you Facebook friends?
My little Facebook name, but I do have a Facebook account. Thank you.
Chris says a little bit.
He's put me on there.
I just went through our
And John
community
and Elaine
conference
are my Facebook friends.
a few weeks ago.
Are you on
in
Facebook?
Orlando. Very well.
Really, I have two friends. I'd like to be, I said to people, we'll just be friends to be Facebook friends.
I signed up as your friend, too. I signed up. I'm another one.
Anyway, I talked to her yesterday. She said, very pleasant about it, but you just wanted to go. Well, I think that's
If you ever find yourself stuck in the cliff notes or
Oh, there's no question about it. And we
Alex is not playing?